Oh, that was a hideous glyph. The globules happily roll down any sloped terrain, and the fireflies won't eat them until they're completely stationary. Anywho, I brought up a while ago how I'd been chosen to defeat the pangolin, and while this may be an experiment, but it could imply that the brothers cannot defeat it themselves. Then, Ironclad the Cannon Man came along, and said that they were defenders, and I had no defensive capabilities. Therefore I'm evil and such, you've heard all that before. But they finally realised that I'm not the turret of fortitude like the rest of them are. They're slowly stripping away my appearance. First they found out that I could see, and then that I was mute, and now they've realised that I'm not weaponised. It won't be long until they pick me apart and find out how pathetically fragile I am. They may even find out that I require the sisters to allow me to move anywhere, and they could kill them, hemming me off into one corner, where I can either be easily executed or will shrivel up and die of my own accord. That predator is becoming slightly more than a minor annoyance now. I don't think I have very much in my heart, and I can't really be bothered to top him up. There is only one of him, though. I'll see how it goes. And now I carefully stalk my prey, hoping to pounce on it from its blind spot. No! This is the wrong way to do it. It's not going to work. The fireflies stop occasionally. It can be quite useful if you can predict where they're going to go next, but when they stop about 2 inches away from the point at which they'll get attracted to your piece of colour, it's not so good. I'm surprised that scrap was still there. Even more surprised that it hasn't already been snatched up. I guess the brothers haven't seriously started interfering yet. Don't worry, they will. Sometimes I have no words. This is what it looked like me trying to attract fireflies in my first playthrough. You move a fair bit faster than them, so it's not too hard to head them off before they reach the end of their route, although they are prone to change direction quite suddenly. Exasperated laugh for you. Oh, right. Slopes are fantastic. Use slopes for everything. It never saw it coming. That's getting a bit of a pain, actually. I don't like having to check the skies constantly. The further away you are, the less likely it is to hit a small target. In the Russian version, the smaller predators shot out colour as well as the larger ones. It's not too much of an incentive to kill them, since I don't kill the larger ones for their colour anyway. But it would be a nice effect in a case like this, if after you killed them the colour pooled out of them, and the fireflies were attracted to it. It would work the other way around too. The predators attack me because I'm full of colour, but they leave the fireflies alone. You could argue that they don't have enough for them to be sniffed out to the same extent. But it would add an entirely new dimension to this trapping mechanic if the flying predators in particular could dive bomb and snatch up a firefly, carrying it around and slowly draining it. Then it would force you to knock it out the sky in order to claim the double bounty, and then it would be more incentive with more questionable actions. Seeing what they've done so far, I wouldn't be surprised if the developers thought up that and rejected it for whatever reason. It must be really difficult to make one large set of creatures react naturally with another very large set. I know nothing of programming, but it doesn't seem like too much of a step up from the pangolin finning off the jumpers. Oh, and that is a fantastic sign. Finally. This will be easily enough to fill Una, and I think that's the last firefly too. I'll have a quick check around as soon as I've done this. There were some other sources of colour that were thrown out in the concept art. Curly tendrils of colour hanging down from the ceiling, like living stalactites, or some sort of moss. When you think about it that way, there are dozens of ways in which you could, though maybe having areas of a chamber where you could scrape it off would add a little bit too much light to each place. And if you had it raining down in certain areas, where you had to stand underneath and hurry there quickly before it drained away. It might make it a bit too quick, which isn't really what they were going for. The void is really urgent, but the chambers themselves, running around and collecting it is very slow and calming, giving you ample opportunity to get every single last bit, if you so choose. Having colour which could drain away out of your control would fit in with the fear of the game, but on the other hand, being able to get all that you can gives you a nicely false sense of security. Again, I'm selecting an empty vial to travel with. It actually costs a minimum amount, even though it comes up with a particular number at the bottom of the screen.
From your hearts.
I want to do it more as the game progresses, since it increases with the more emerald you put in, or it could be all the colours that you put in. I don't know how the actual void itself works these things out. I'm fairly sure there's only ever one of these in this garden, but it's still a bit of a jolt when it sees you as soon as you enter and charges straight towards you. There's very little you can do. You can back out and re-enter the void, or you can try and fight it down and catch it in the doorway. Now I think it's a good time to mention a detail that something awful forum goer I said no noted. I'm astonished I didn't realise it myself. It's something that's absolutely crucial if you want to truly understand the sisters' personalities. Each sister can only be fed 2 colours, and Sister Death prefers the colours gold and emerald. She's extremely trusting. She's taken a soul on the brink of death. She's given it her own hearts, pretty much given up everything that she can, in the hope that it will fix the problems that plague her world. She also has reason to be jealous. Out of all of the sisters, she is the outsider. She hasn't even been given a name. This could manifest itself in many ways, but I think at the moment it's offset by the emerald, which is the colour of defence and viscosity. Instead of giving in to the jealousy, she is using the emerald to steel herself against the other sister's prejudices and stubbornly continuing with life. The emerald also makes her a protector, as she has done with me. She has done all that she can to make me safe, which ties herself back in with the trust of the gold. As you can see, the pair of colours are inextricably linked. They govern what they say and how they appear, and it's true for all the sisters, as will be made extremely clear by the end of this update. I'm heading back to Uta next. As you'll know, she prefers the colours emerald and silver. Emerald, we've already discussed, is defensive, and she is very defensive. She doesn't really take kindly to our actions, she doesn't respond to it very much. But she has protected me against the brothers in the past by giving me the glyph necessary to complete the impossible task of extracting the colour from the mines. She's acted in a cold and defensive way because of her higher calling towards discipline, which is governed by silver. This link is evident by some of the things the colour says when it whispers to us, and also by the fact that it is the colour that guards against wastefulness. She refuses to waste words on us. She doesn't waste her energy by moving around, trying to lure us in like others might. And this ties in with the feeling that she is cold and distant towards us, reflected in the sombre tones and lighting of her water-filled chamber, bringing us full circle back to the most obvious indication of her colour preference. That was really fun to think about. I'll make sure to do it again next time I head over to Sister Ava's chamber. Somehow, out of all that I've done, I've ended up with no emerald and only a small sliver of silver, but it should be just enough to top her up.
Leave me now. A new sister was born for you. Forget Sister Death and hurry to your Oli, or she'll be driven insane by hunger.
I've traversed the void several times trying to open her second heart, and that's all she says. That's the last I'll be hearing from her. For quite some time, potentially forever. At least she looks slightly more relaxed and laid back now in her camera obscura. I really hope it's had a positive effect on her. I'll just let myself out and not look back. I don't want to bother her any further.